かより救われ今は定かに見ゆ神を恐るる恵みと神を愛する恵み深き恵みに出会いて神を固く信じあまた困難乗り越え今やここまで来たりなおも恵みは我が家へと道を示したも遥か遠き日身元にて光放ちし我ら永に神をたた
The grand ceremony to celebrate the birth of the Messiah is about to begin. We ask all participants to please take their seats and maintain a spirit of silence until the ceremony begins. We will now begin the grand ceremony to celebrate the birth of the Messiah. Everyone, please rise. The officiant will now enter the altar. Opening song, an original World Church of Messiah song with lyrics written by Kyoshu-sama entitled a new world. Our pledge.
Our pledge. In the name of Kyoshu-sama, and in deep awe and fear of God, O God, allow me to voice out the following to you. You, who are the Lord of all creation, the one and only God, and our Father in heaven. 68 years ago, you were born inside Meishu-sama as the child of God, the Messiah. Through Meishu-sama, O God, we came to know that a human being is not an existence that is to reincarnate, but an existence that is to be born anew. 2,000 years ago, you, O God, sent Jesus to the world in order to forgive the sins of all humanity. You accepted the atoning blood that Jesus offered, raised them from the world of the dead, and accomplished the resurrection. O God, we believe that Jesus is the Messiah. We believe that Meishu-sama is the Messiah. From now on, O God, we reaffirm our commitment to go forward, obedient to the words of Meishu-sama, who declared that his church works in concert with Christianity. O God, today, we members of World Church of Messiah around the world pledge to you to aim to be born anew as children of God Messiahs, and to serve in this salvation that is open to all humanity, always being one heart with Kyoshu-sama, who represents Meishu-sama here on earth.
Heads of Meishu-sama.
I will smash the current, long-standing, temporal civilization to pieces, and I'm going to establish a genuine civilization that truly flourishes. Looking back, amazed I am that I had made it through the path covered with thorns. Finally, this year, the peach tree that takes 3,000 years to grow is going to bear fruit. There are celebrations both in this world and in heaven. O Pharisees, repent and kneel before the Messiah, before the glorious, radiant Messiah. How valiant are the shouts of hallelujah, celebrating the Christ as he descends from heaven. Ah, how precious he is. Ah, the Son of the Sun climbs up to heaven, and the songs of celebration resound throughout the land. Look, there is light ahead. The spring of hope wells up within my heart.
Everyone, please be seated. Sacred Word of Meishu-sama. Meishu-sama's Sacred Word. Sermon in September and October 1949. Question: can anyone reach the level of Kin Shinjitsu? knowing the truth if one's faith deepens? Meishu-sama, no way. Absolutely not. Only one person in thousands, no, tens of thousands of years is chosen to reach that level. Of course, you can get closer to that level if your faith deepens. To tell you the truth, in the future, everyone in the world will reach the level of Kinshin Jitsu. But this is still a secret, since we have to watch out for evil spirits. It will be soon enough, though. In the world of Moroku, there is no such thing as Kinshin Jitsu, for everyone will be able to know the truth. Sermons of Light, number 15, December 20th, 1949.
The Bible.
Bible, Revelation chapter 21, verses 1 through 7. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain, for the old order of things has passed away." He who was seated on the throne said, "I am making everything new." Then he said, "Write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true." He said to me, "It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty, I will give water without cost from the spring of the water of life. Those who are victorious will inherit all of this, and I will be their God, and they will be my children." The officiant will now exit the altar. We will now have a greeting from the President of World Church of Messiah, USA, Mr. Igor Melcher.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. We're having some technical difficulties, so I apologize. Apparently, New Jersey and Florida can't hear us, even though on our end, it shows that the sound is working. So I ask you to bear with us a little bit. Maybe somebody can call them and they can put that up to the speaker. I apologize. Okay? So at the moment, it's kind of, we're working on that. But the show must go on. Welcome. This is a very different ceremony than we're used to. I think everybody here has questions, right? Because it's not very much of what we've been doing. So we have our services, but today it's a special grand ceremony. Okay, we're celebrating the birth of the Messiah. And I'll get a little bit into that as we go on. First, I would like to thank all the staff here at the Iman Cultural Center for their understanding and cooperation, as well as their consideration on numerous matters these past couple of weeks. It is due to their support that we are able to hold this ceremony today. And for that, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to everyone here. Thank you very much. Congratulations, everyone, on today's grand ceremony to celebrate the birth of the Messiah. Today is truly an auspicious day. I believe it has been quite a journey to get here today. As we try to stream live in New Jersey and Florida, it's the first attempt that we're doing it in this way. Many people have had difficulties to participate. Many flights have been turned around. I just got news as they were going to the ceremony, the plane was about to arrive, and then it turned around and they had to go back. Some people got COVID before coming, hence our numbers are a little bit less than expected tonight. And I believe that each and every one of you here today have experienced many challenges in the past 6 months. Both those who have planned to come and those who are just showing up for the first time and have no idea. And why do I say 6 months? It was about 6 months ago that this ceremony was announced. This ceremony is taking place all over the world today. Actually, it started yesterday in Japan, and it's going across the globe. I believe that many of us have had sad moments, happy moments, and why is all that happening, right? Why do we have all these challenges? As we've been preparing for the ceremony, many have gone through so many unimaginable changes. I think my microphone's a little too high. Yeah. Many unimaginable changes in their lives. For us who have been waiting for the ceremony, we've been wondering, what would it be like? What would we feel? What would we learn? What's there? Would I really grasp the meaning? However, as we've had all these expectations and as we've had all these changes, there's someone who's been waiting for it a lot longer than us, who's been expecting a lot longer than us. Guys, it's feedback. Sorry. I apologize. And that someone is God, Meishu-sama and Jesus Christ. God prepared this moment, believe it or not, from the very beginning, before creation. and has been constantly working steadily for this moment. Makiko, can you turn my microphone down a little bit, please? It's feedback. He chose each and every one of you here today to be present. It might be hard to believe, but it's true. He's called you each by name here. The very people who are in this room. God prepared Jesus Christ 2,000 years ago, sent him to this earth, and atoned for all our sins. Through that, he was fulfilling his will for us to return home. But we didn't receive that. 2,000 years went by. What happened? We kept living our lives as is. It became so much so that this story became like history. Maybe it happened, maybe it didn't, with many different interpretations. And what was this big sin that we committed? We took possession of the very life, consciousness, and breath of God. We think, right? We have thoughts, we have feelings, and we think it's us. We're the ones doing it. We're the ones living. I can think, I can breathe. And that's the very proof that we've taken possession of God's consciousness, life, and breath. If God were not within us, were not breathing within us, or not allowing us to move, think, feel, we wouldn't exist. Yet we still believe we are the ones that are doing everything. And even so, even though we committed this sin of taking God's life, breath, and consciousness as our own, God still forgave us. He didn't give up on us. God then opened the gate of heaven for all of us to enter. But we still didn't. Even though God had fulfilled his great work through the atoning blood of Christ, we did not receive it. In order to fulfill his love for us, God sent Meishu-sama to the earth, transcending the time of 2,000 years, to make us his children and make us all be born anew. Meishu-sama came to this earth and once more received God's love, God's forgiveness through the atoning blood of Christ. Meishu-sama dedicated his life, soul, body, in service to God so that we could awaken to the true will of God. So that we could know the truth of God, the truth of Christ, the truth of why we are here, and the truth of how to return home and how to serve God in his new work of creation. On June 15, 1931, Meishu-sama climbed Mount Nokogiri, and Meishu-sama received that truth of Christ and the blood of atonement, and received the revelation from the transition from night to day. Meishu-sama used every means necessary and every tool necessary to get us closer to understanding the truth of God and what the will of God was. Meishu-sama repented for taking possession of God's life, God's breath, and consciousness. And God received Meishu-sama's heart. And on April 19, 1954, Meishu-sama was born anew as a child of God, as the Messiah. That part of Meishu-sama's life, we're just finding out, most of us. We know the story of Meishu-sama in 1931. We know the story of Meishu-sama and all the work he did with Jorei, all the healing he brought. But the part that sums it all up, what he actually announced in 1935 when he founded our church, He announced that a new birth would take place. But at that time, Meishu-sama couldn't freely talk about God. For all those who know history, Japan was still a very empirical nation under one national religion. Well, in their case, it's two. It's Shinto and Buddhism, right? And any foreign concept, any foreign idea couldn't be shared. So Meishu-sama used many means to try to get us to talk about God. And when the did, Meishu-sama freely started talking about God. Meishu-sama changed the name of our organization. He actually opened 2 churches, and within the space of 1 to 2 years, he founded World Church of Messiah. And he started sharing everything that he couldn't talk about before, 1949 on. In that short span, Meishu-sama fulfilled God's wish for us. Within you, within each of you, each of us are the sum total of all our ancestors. They are alive within us. However, when we say our ancestors are alive, this does not mean that they are alive in order to comfort our hearts, like most of the people in society say. When somebody passes away, we usually say they're alive in your thoughts, they're alive in your memories. That is not what we mean when we say they're alive within us. There's an actual breath of each one of them within you. There's an actual consciousness of each one of them within us. Have you ever wondered why you can't stop your thoughts from happening? We have many thoughts, right? Some people even call it the monkey mind. It keeps going and going and going, and you try to stop it, you try to think of other things, you try to think good thoughts, bad thoughts, and they just keep coming. That's because they're not you thinking. You're like an antenna, receiving all those thoughts and all those feelings of all those ancestors alive within you. But what is more, and what we are learning now, is that those thoughts and those feelings are not disconnected from everything that's happening in the world. We all want world peace, is it not? We all pray for peace. We all pray for prosperity, or at least the conflict between our family members, between ourselves, that could be resolved. And we know that Meishu-sama came to show us how to reach that. And for a long time we thought that that kind of world peace, that kind of prosperity was if I did many good deeds, if I channeled a lot of Jorei, if I eliminated all these clouds I have, I would have peace. But we missed the point along the way, and we missed what Meishu-sama was really trying to show us. If we keep doing it that way, if we keep trying to get world peace and peace between us and prosperity like we've been doing for the past 2,000, 3,000 years, nothing's going to change. We can try. And humanity's been doing it for over 3,000 years. I know a famous scientist that called that the definition of insanity. Keep doing the same thing over and over and over and expect different results. Or we can try something different. That different is what's being announced here today. That's what this ceremony is all about. At the beginning of the ceremony, we heard the music, A New World, prepared by Kyoshu-sama. And in it, we have entered this new world. And today, This ceremony is making a commitment to God to serve in this new world, in this path to be born anew as children of God, Messiahs. But what does that mean? As in the song, we are proclaiming blessing throughout the world, announcing that a new world has come. Wiping away tears, we have gathered our courage and rise. And during the tempest of each passing day, we shall accomplish the greatest will. Dashing our wavering hearts, we shout, flourish, the life overflowing within. Seems like simple lines, right? How do you announce that to the world? Really stop to look at these words. Proclaiming blessing throughout the world. Where are you proclaiming that blessing from? This is what Meishu-sama came to show us. How to return to heaven. And from that heaven, proclaim that blessing. From that heaven, make that salvation. Meishu-sama said, before anything, you have to rise to heaven. Extend your hand and bring all those into heaven to receive salvation. He never said you have to make the conditions perfect, become a really good person, have really great feelings, return to heaven, and then do God's work. No, he said the door is open. Climb up to heaven and extend your hand. It's like a lifeguard, right? A lifeguard in the ocean or in a pool. He has to be in a condition to help to bring the person into the shore. He doesn't go in front of the person and start struggling with the person. He usually goes from a condition where they're safe, right? Pulling up a ladder, so to speak, the same way. Climb up to heaven. You can say, oh, that's easy. I can do that, right? How about all those thoughts and all those feelings that we have? Why are they there? It's exactly to do that. God is alive within each one of us, at the center of the consciousness of each one of us. When God's light shines, you see the thoughts and the feelings of millions of souls alive within you that need to return to that heaven, that are waiting for you to call them into that heaven. That's why you can't stop those thoughts and those feelings. It's not something you can control. It's something that God wants you to do. But we do totally the opposite. We say, I want to shut this out. I don't want to think about it. I need to be a good person. And we try with our own strength to stop something that naturally is not made for you to stop, but to convey, to channel back to God in heaven. We try to do things with our own strength, and we fail time and time again. And we keep repeating the process over and over again. In today's sacred word, Meishu-sama talks about the level of Kenshin Jitsu. Some of you have heard this before, some of you are hearing it for the first time. It's a Japanese word that talks about reaching the ultimate awareness. It's like the very top of a pyramid. He says, everything I reveal, everything that is being shared is from this level of Kenshin Jitsu. All my teachings, everything that I'm talking about is from there. I read this sacred word years ago. And to be very honest, I've been looking for it for a long time because I've quoted it, but I couldn't find the original source where it was from. So when it came out today, I was really excited. Because what that sacred word is showing is that we are in a completely new world. In a completely new way to save. Meishu-sama says, at the top of our church is the level of Kenshin Jitsu. From there, I share all the sacred words and God leads the divine plan. So when we talk about Kyoshu-sama, He's one with Meishu-sama at that very level of Kenshin-jitsu. That's why he's not just a figure, not just a political person running the church. He's one with Meishu-sama at that very level. And what Kyoshu-sama is doing now, and what he's allowing us to know, is how God is doing his work of salvation from that very level of Kenshin-jitsu. But it's not just God doing now. That gate is open for all of us to do that work. It's a matter of choice. I choose to follow Meishu-sama's true will and learn what God is sharing from that very top of the pyramid and serve from that very top of the pyramid in heaven. Or I just keep doing what I've been doing up till now because it's comfortable. That kind of salvation that's being revealed now does not involve our strength, does not involve our knowledge. It just involves our heart of acceptance. We're not returning to heaven because we were good people. We're not returning to heaven because we did good deeds. We are the sum total of all our ancestors. That means that every conflict in the world, every sin in the world, every problem in the world, we are the sum total of that. And God is allowing us to return to that heaven, to God's heaven, because of mercy, because of his love. When Meishu-sama talks about Christianity and working in concert with Christianity, there's something that needs to be very clear for everybody here today. Meishu-sama says, what I talk about cannot be understood in the conventional sense of religion. What I'm sharing with you cannot be compared to the conventional sense of religion. That means the words we are using are very similar, but the message is very, very different. To be born anew as a child of God, as a Messiah, is to have that very birth of God happen within each and every single one of us in all humanity. No conventional religion thinks in that way. And I'm not discrediting any religion. I'm not talking bad about any religion. I'm sharing something completely new. Something that has not existed in this physical plane ever. That's what Meishu-sama came to show us. That's the path that we are on. And you can take as many people as you want there because God wants to receive all humanity there. It's huge. When I talked about our thoughts and our feelings being connected to all the problems in the world, it's because as you return to heaven with your ancestors, with all those who you're the sum total of, all the conflicts you're experiencing, all the emotions, good or bad, that you're experiencing. All humanity is connected to that. So let's say right now you have the war in Ukraine, right? We just use that as an example, but there's so many wars going on in the world, it's hard to keep up. All those conflicts, apparently enormous, macrocosm, exist in a microcosmic level within each one of us. They're connected. As we return to that heaven, to God's heaven, in the center of our soul, God can make that vanish overnight, if he so wishes. That's the God we're talking about, the creator of the universe, creator of all things. Overnight. In this instant, God is nurturing us to be able to live with him in this new era, in his paradise, while on this very earth. You don't have to die to go there. It's not something that happens after years. It's somewhere you can return to right now through the name of Messiah. Meishu-sama has the prayer Zengen Sanji, right? And many of us used to pray it. It's a beautiful prayer. very long. It's in Japanese. The translation on it, Meishu-sama talks about conflicts between countries disappearing like bad dreams. Literally, that's the age of Sone. There's no time to do one-on-one now. Right? Before, we used to do one-on-one work. And we work one at a time and try to help one person at a time. Now, it's thousands of souls at a time through one thought, through one feeling. That's how powerful God's light is at this moment. That's how God is receiving us in this heaven at this moment. That's what Meishu-sama came to reveal when he did the provisional ceremony. And it's interesting to think about it, right? Meishu-sama declared to all his followers in 1954 that he was born anew as a Messiah. Right? Back in 1954. 10,000 people at that time participated in Japan in the ceremony. And Meishu-sama called it the provisional ceremony. Not the actual ceremony, the provisional ceremony. Do you know why that is? I always wondered why, right? If Meishu-sama is Meishu-sama, why is that the provisional ceremony? Because God is waiting for each one of us. The actual event is happening within each one of us. This moment is our moment to reaffirm that commitment we made with God. In Meishu-sama's hymns today, I won't read them all again, but a couple of them really caught my eyes. One of them, he says, looking back, amazed I am that I had made it through the path covered in thorns. Meishu-sama says that to be born anew as a Messiah is not something just happens because you want to, or feel like it, and then it just happens overnight. It's like, oh, it's all dandy. It's a very arduous process. Meishu-sama went through a very painful process for that to happen. Christ himself went through a very painful process for that to happen. Doesn't mean we all need to go through as much, but all the thoughts, all the feelings that you're in right now, or you feel trapped in right now, you don't have to be. We end up keeping ourselves in that path of thorns, basically, is what's happening. Because as we hold on to those thoughts and those feelings and we think that they are in our control, that we can do something about it, that we should fix them, or not, we should ignore them, we, using our very limited human strength, suffer. And suffer. And suffer. But the minute we're able to recognize God alive, and we can return it to God, at that moment, you can feel God's true peace. I guarantee you, it's not a lie. You can feel it. That process of returning to God every moment, through every thought, channeling everything back to God, sum total of our numerous ancestors, is what Meishu-sama called the new Jorei he discovered. Meishu-sama for a long time did the physical act of raising his hand and channeling Jorei. But when he declared that we entered the world of Sonin, that Jorei was not so important anymore, many people misunderstand that and think, okay, Jorei ceased to exist. There's no more Jorei. No. Jorei is God's light. It's God himself. Meishu-sama discovered how to serve God through a completely new Jorei that happens through Sonin, that we are channeling everything back to God. Like Meishu-sama, we can make it through this apparent path of thorns. Like in today's music, A New World, let us dash out our wavering hearts and shout, flourish, delight overflowing within, the life of the Messiah overflowing within us. We have to get rid of our indecision. We have all those voices within you, all those feelings within you, but you have free will. And you have two choices. You're taken by all those feelings and all those thoughts and get trapped in them, or you take control and you say, no, we're going in an opposite direction. We're returning to God in heaven at this moment through the name of Messiah. And at that moment, you can ask that light that's overflowing already within you. There's not that the light's dark and you need light. It's overflowing within you. Flourish. For the world to be saved, the Messiah has to appear, Meishu-sama said in his sacred words. And now this appearance will manifest through each one of us. Doesn't mean that you're better or inferior than anybody else. It means that God is going to manifest himself through each one of you to make this work happen. So with a resolute heart, let us without hesitation declare this blessing to the world, starting with all those alive within us. You know, I'm not very good at quoting the Bible because I don't read it that much, to be very honest. I have to be frank with you guys. I'm starting to study it now. But there's one passage in the Bible that really touches me, and it was actually a Christian friend of mine that brought it up to my attention. Years ago, I did catechism and all that, but, I'm not a very good student. And it's about a mustard seed. Some of you know this passage. Jesus turned to his disciples and he said, if your faith is as big as a mustard seed, you can do miracles greater than I. If you just believe. If your faith is as big as a mustard seed, I wish I had it here. It's actually in my bag. I'm sorry. I didn't bring it out. It's tiny. A mustard seed is amazingly tiny. It's like smaller than sesame seed. Okay? If our faith in God, who is alive within you, Meishu-sama, who was born anew as a Messiah, who is alive within you, and Christ, who is also born as a child of God, as a Messiah, who's alive within you. If our faith was just as big as a mustard seed to believe in them, that they are alive in us, imagine what this world would be. And what does that tell us today? Our faith is far from beginning. It's being nurtured. It's time to put our money where our mouth is, right? And I don't mean my money in that sense. It's really to bet on it, right? Do you really believe it? Do you believe that your life can be changed by saying those simple words? Flourish. The light that's within you, flourish. Do you believe that you can say, okay, in the name of Messiah, let's return to heaven at this moment to all those who are manifesting their thoughts and feelings? And you can serve Meishu-sama like he did? Meishu-sama did miracles not by raising his hands. He did miracles just by a thought. The raising of the hands was the very beginning of his work. For all of us who know the history of Meishu-sama's work, he started with writing paper fans, calligraphy, and touching people. Then his therapy turned into touching with two hands. And he said the light is getting stronger. As the light got stronger, he removed two hands and used just one hand. But the work that was done at that time, Meishu-sama would say in the beginning, right? You don't have to think about anything. Just raise your hand, because he wanted to show people that God was alive and working. But in the end, when there was a shift in Meishu-sama's life, he said, now I will do everything through words and sonin, through words and thought. That means that the words we utter, the thoughts that we have is where the work of salvation is going to happen. So it means you have to think about it. You have to word it out. That spirit of the word, we call it kototama, right? And sonin is how God is manifesting himself in this age. But all we need is just faith. We don't need to understand it. To be honest, to understand God is impossible. I think it's like putting infinite creature in a box of our limited understanding and say we understand God. But God is nurturing us to get closer and closer to Him. That's for sure. Just like a parent nurtures their child through the years. Children don't understand their parents from the very beginning. Right? It takes years, sometimes a whole lifetime, and they don't understand their parents. But they follow and they believe if they're wise, and they learn from them and grow from them and become better. God is doing the same to us. All we have to do is accept that. Oh, but I don't know, we talk about blood of atonement and Christ. This is the answer I have to everybody. Take it up with God when we reach the other side. He created it that way. All we have to do is accept it. Doesn't make you less of a human being. On the contrary, that ignorance to accept God and be humble before God and say, I want to learn, I bet pleases God a lot more than saying, I know what you want for me. I think this is the best way to go. But above all, it just takes that little bit of faith in what Meishu-sama did. All of us came here. Our lives were changed when we came into contact with Meishu-sama. There are people here who are 3rd, 4th, 5th generation members. Right? Their lives in this faith, you've seen so many miracles that we get blinded by that and saying, well, I have all these miracles. Why is all these changes, right? I have all these miracles and now all these changes are happening. But you know what's very interesting? When all of us started this path, myself included, we didn't believe at all. Right? And then we saw, hey, wait a minute, Meishu-sama has something for me here. Let me keep going. And we didn't understand it, but we kept going. And today, Meishu-sama wants to bring us to a whole new level. A whole new level of serving God. A whole new level of oneness with Meishu-sama. A whole new level of joy, prosperity, peace. And we have a choice. We continue believing in Meishu-sama, who's changed our lives from the very beginning, and keep following, recognizing that He's very alive and guiding us at this very moment. Or we think that He died, which basically goes against everything we believe. And everything became very human-centered and people-centered, and God just ceased to exist. Right? Our hearts and minds are being used by God every moment, every second. That's all humanity. It's not just us who are here today. Everybody. God is manifesting His infinite light to receive all humanity in heaven and grant us His true love, His eternal life, and His prosperity. When we talk about love, light, prosperity, we're talking about God's love, light, prosperity. Not what we think love, light, and prosperity should be. Okay? Two very different things. In the darkest moments, when you leave here today, and you might find yourself in a very dark moment, in a moment that you feel very lonely, it's not that there's no light there. It's that you're just accustomed to looking at the shadow that light is casting. God is there. God is carrying you. You're not breathing by yourself. You're not living by yourself. You're not doing anything by yourself. God is carrying you every moment of the way. And His light is so great that all you can see is the shadow of everything He wants you to return to Him. It's like looking directly at the sun, right in front of the sun. You can't do it. You have to turn your back so you can see that the light's reflecting on. It's too strong. Same with God's light. But He's carrying you every step of the way. The world is already filled with light. All the problems in the world can disappear with a thought, if God wills it, if we start recognizing it, if we start acknowledging that it all belongs to Him, and return it all to Him. And that's what Meishu-sama came to show us. So I pray, and I hope, that in those darkest moments, you can remember to see God's light. Return to Him, and let Him carry that burden. You don't have to do it. You don't have to know how to do it. You just have to have that little bit of faith and share that message with the world. That world exists, it's here, and we are at the forefront of that. We know how to really bring humanity out of that suffering. You can keep it to yourselves. Just go home and never do anything about it. Or you can say, no, I'm going to walk this path and I'm going to trust and find out what God has prepared for me. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much. Closing song, an original World Church of Messiah song with lyrics written by Masaaki-sama entitled, You Become Me.
De quem é o infinito céu, ele é do Senhor. De quem são as estrelas, são do Senhor. De quem são os mares, são do Senhor. A quem pertence a vida, a quem pertence o coração, a quem eu pertenço, a quem eu pertenço. Pertence ao Senhor, pertence ao Senhor, tudo pertence ao Senhor. Eu pertenço ao Senhor, o Senhor será eu. Essa é a minha alegria, a minha felicidade. De quem é a água, ela é do Senhor. De quem é o solo, ele é do Senhor. De quem é o vento, ele é do Senhor. A quem pertence a palavra, a quem pertence o pensamento, a quem eu pertenço, a quem eu pertenço. Pertence ao Senhor, pertence ao Senhor, tudo pertence ao Senhor. Eu pertenço ao Senhor, o Senhor será eu. Essa é a minha alegria, a minha felicidade. Pertence ao Senhor, pertence ao Senhor. Tudo pertence ao Senhor. Eu pertenço ao Senhor. O Senhor será eu. Essa é a minha alegria, a minha felicidade. O Senhor é tudo para o meu ser. O Senhor será.
This concludes the grand ceremony to celebrate the birth of the Messiah. Thank you very much.